you are listening to the Footy Mailbag Podcast with Damo and Clarky.
Hello and welcome to the Footy Mailbag. My name is Damo, and here at the Footy Mailbag, we believe in mid-season trading, and I have traded a future first rounder to get one of the best co-hosts in the business to help me this week. It's Tom from the Footy with Broden Kelly, IronTomDom on Twitch, and an Aunty Donna producer, among other projects, including his music. Thanks for coming back, Tom.
Thank you so much for having me, Damo. I hope you've been well.
I have been. I've been all right. Now, last time you were here, you said that your Supercoach season hadn't been going that well. Have you recovered at all?
So let me give you the lowdown. I've recovered a little bit. I am up to 41,000. I have 700 grand in the bank. 9 trades left.
Sounds like it's time to go shopping.
It's time to go shopping. I have 2 upgrades left to do. I've got Reville and Garcia on the bench, so I need a mid and a forward, and then the team is essentially complete. So I'm very excited for this week.
So 700 in the bank, 9 trades left, 2 upgrades to go. You should be able to get there. Have you already done your trades for this week?
No, I've been saving it for this, Damo. You're going to tell me exactly what to do, mate.
No pressure then.
No pressure, mate.
All right. So the buys are done. Thank goodness for that.
Thank
and
God.
that's when a lot of teams sort of made their ground, whether it was making all their trades, getting all their rookies off the field, all that sort of thing. So thank goodness the buys are over. We've now got the rest of the season with every team playing, unless something drastic happens like the end of the world or whatever. But how far behind were you when the buys started, and have you made up a lot of ground because of the buys, because of making those 3 or 4 moves during the buys?
Yeah, I definitely did, but I feel like I fell into quite a few traps across the buys, which I probably should have avoided. Example being I brought back Zach Fisher. I don't know how you felt about that, Damo, but I brought back Zach Fisher after hating him early. I fell into the trap of Blakey. Just a few weird little picks. I did manage to drop Clayton Oliver at the right time during his buy, and I've held Luke Jackson. So the forward line is the big issue because I'm carrying Moore and Jackson. The back line's flaky because I've got Blakey and Fisher in there. And the midfield, when Newcomb, Green and Horne-Francis perform, it's looking strong, but they don't often perform. I also have Dawson in there to throw another spanner in the works. So I've got just the most up and down team, I'd say. What about yourself?
So to tell people where I'm at after the buys, so I was around 2,100 before the buys.
Love.
And I'm still 2,100 after the buys. I didn't make ground.
Brutal.
But I definitely improved my team, so I don't know how that all worked. I think it was because I had one buy round where I completely just shat the bed.
Yep.
But my team is now complete with four trades left.
Yep.
I still have Luke Jackson like you, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hesitate if Jackson and Rankin's price come very close to each other, because I will be making that quick swap.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to use 2 trades to get Isaac Rankin. If I can move one to the other, only using 1 trade in my money in the bank, which is only about 20k, then I will 100% do that. But otherwise, I've got Luke Jackson, and he's good because he can cover my rucks as well if Gawn or English go down. I don't have a 23rd premium like some other people have been lucky enough to work out. So my cover is Bruce Reville. Hopefully he doesn't get the sub-vest at Brisbane.
Yeah.
Or Billy Dowling, if, as long as Nix keeps him in the side.
Yes.
So I'm in a great spot for cover if you squint a little bit. But yeah, as far as my on-field team, I'm done, and I don't have Jack Steele. I don't have Tuke Miller. I
Yep.
don't have Connor Rosie.
Yep.
All of those guys I got rid of before I considered my team complete. So, but I've gone for some real pods as well, like some real points of difference. My D6 is Trent Rivers. After seeing him in that midfield role where he attended 80% of the centre bounces or something, and scored 131 in the absence of Christian Petrarca because he's not coming back.
No, he's not 100%.
I'm banking on Trent Rivers holding on to that role. Worst case scenario, he was averaging 85 with a pretty good floor and a pretty good ceiling. And I'm happy to hold on to that. It was either Rivers in my defense or someone in my forward line around that same price. And at 450k, I just felt that Trent Rivers was the best option as long as he keeps his midfield role. And it has swung Nick Dacos into my midfield, but that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, that's so clever, Damo. I love that. I should copy you and do that. I should swing Fisher forward and trade Reville for Trent Rivers and do something similar.
Yeah, Trent Rivers will be on our traffic lights this week. I really, really like him at 450k, especially if he's going to keep that midfield role at the Ds, which there's no reason to think that he won't. If people are looking for rookies to downgrade to this week, Billy Dowling is 123k. Ari Schoenmaker at the Saints is 117k in defense. Hopefully he holds on with Wanganeen Malera coming back. Logan Evans did quite well on debut for the Power at 102k, also in defense, but after being smashed, who knows if he holds his spot.
Yep.
And Nathan Kruger at Collingwood is a ruck forward swing for 123k. He should remain in the side as long as Mason Cox is out, but who knows what his job security is like beyond that.
Yeah.
And coming out of the round 15 bye, if you are waiting to jump on someone like Adam Treloar, Rory Laird, Isaac Rankin, Toby Nankervis, Bailey Dale, Marcus Bontempelli, Jack Sinclair, Will Day, Rowan Marshall, mentioned Wanganeen Malera before, or Sicily, or a player from any of those teams, now's the time.
Yeah.
Just quickly on Toby Nankervis, without looking, what would you have guessed his average to be?
So I think that he does 105 every year. Year after year, I feel like he goes 105. What's he at?
So he's at 109.4 at the moment.
Yeah, right. Doing well.
He's got a 5-round average of 124.8.
Jeepers.
And last year, I think he had a down year. I think his average finished in the 90s. And he gets suspended a lot. So people probably won't want to look at him late in the season because they don't have a lot of movement if he does get suspended for a dangerous tackle or anything along those lines. But he's flown under the radar. I think he's out averaging some of the guys that people are jumping on, like Tristan Sherry. He might even be out averaging Rowan Marshall, but I can't confirm that because I don't own him and I didn't do my research before I pressed record. Primos that have bottomed out, so they're going to be, this is their lowest price that they will be unless disaster strikes. Jack Sinclair has a break even of 56. Tom Green has a break even of 44.
Wow.
I'm classing George Wardlaw on current form as a primo. He's got a break even of 50. Connor Rosie's got a break even of 52, and he's at the low price of 410k. Charlie Curno's got a break even of 67. Dan Houston's got a break even of 68. Lockie Whitfield's got a break even of 68 as well. Toby Nankervis has a break even of 73. Davies Uniacke at 74. Rory Laird's got a break even of 79. Zach Merritt 81. Andrew Brayshaw 87. Hayden Young 93. Brody Grundy 95. And Will Day 97. I'm sure there's other players I've missed, but those are the ones that stuck out to me when I had a quick look. Any of those guys you're potentially going to bring in, Tom, to finish your team?
I mean, Rosie is very interesting. I had no idea that he was down so low. BE of 52. I mean, just looking at the charts now, he's definitely underperformed, but he still had that 150 in there. He still had quite a few scores over 100. Surely some people are going to take a punt on that.
I think at his price, he's too good to ignore if that's all you can afford.
Yeah.
But I think if you already own the likes of a Tuke Miller, a Jack Steele, maybe even a Paddy Cripps, I don't think he's doing that great on a week-to-week basis, Paddy Cripps.
Yep.
Or even a Jordan Dawson. If you have too many of those sorts of players that have bounce games but are sitting in that 90 to 100 sort of scoring most weeks, I don't know if you can bring in Rosie to improve your team. I know it gets a rookie off the field, but I think if possible, you should be aiming for someone a little bit better than that. But can't deny that at 410k, Connor Rosie's great value. It's just a case of, can your team handle it if you are far behind and want to go up the rankings?
Exactly. You'd want to hope that he really performs. Yeah, I think Jack Sinclair's too expensive for me. I'll be looking at a couple of 550s. That's why why Rosie's so interesting. Or I'm interested in taking a punt on, maybe someone in like the George Wardlaw sort of realm at 500,000. Like, obviously the average is quite low, but the 5-round average is very impressive. I don't know. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I included George Wardlaw in the bottomed out primos because I felt that his form in recent weeks, like, this guy's ready to step out and be a Supercoach premium. And do we jump on for his hot hand towards the end of the year? And there'll be some people that have already penciled him in as to their starting squad next season.
Yeah.
And I know, Tom, you've mentioned before when talking about Supercoach with Broden that it's around now that you start to pencil down players to add to your team for next year.
100%, because Trent Rivers, although he might score like very well from here on out, right, he still might be quite underpriced next year, yeah, because once his average for the year sort of comes down, he might be quite underpriced. And he's the sort of player that I could very easily forget about. And of course, Track might come back next year and he ends up being very average. But I feel like my mind is clearest around the end of the season before. That's when I write down who to keep an eye on for next year.
So I did a little exercise at the end of last year where I actually planned a team before I'd seen anything else, draft, anything like that.
Love this.
When the team picker came out, I put that team into the team picker. I didn't guess some of the prices correctly, so I did have to make some changes, but the bulk of it entered into the team picker. And I tried not to make any changes to my team at all until the season began. I wanted to see if this team was the team. If I was sound of mind at that point compared to all the preseason, guffin that comes out where this person's injured, this person's not injured, this person's down, this person's up, this person's training the house down, all this stuff comes through in the preseason and you get kind of confused. But this team, the bulk of that team is actually still in my team.
Yeah, right. There you go.
So, and I know we've had Lekdog, who was at Jock Reynolds with us. He says the first team you make in Supercoach is usually statistically the best team that you make.
Yeah, because it's the least emotional. Usually,
Yes.
It's usually just raw numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going way off topic here, but if I was to have a look at my planning for 2025 now, I have Wardlaw in there, I have Will Day in there, I have Hayden Young in there.
Yeah.
So this year's taught me that while paying up for the consistent players is good, the cheaper players that you think can go to the next step usually do take the next step.
Yeah.
And you might have a few games where you go, I've made a mistake here. But if you just continue thinking that you need to get your rookies off field first before you fix any of that, unless someone has had a horror start to the year, like a Jai Newcomb, for example,
Yes.
you can usually just hold that player until you have the ability to luxury trade.
Yeah, bang on. And I think like Max Holmes would have been a perfect example of someone that everyone sort of picked for a breakout, but I don't think a lot of people started in Supercoach, right? But has ended up averaging 103, been very, very serviceable, put up a lot of good scores. So if you have that sort of feeling at the end of a year, like Max Holmes next year is the year, back it in, I reckon.
And Max Holmes, just to use him as an example, would have tested people because
Yes.
he started the season with a 112 and a 95, and then went 84, 97, 87. And so people would have been wondering, hang on a minute, has he actually broken out? Is this actually something? But since round 7, he hasn't gone below 88.
Yeah.
And most of his scores have been 95 plus. So he's come out of nowhere in some people's eyes to be this good, and I think he's going to be a popular starting pick next year, especially if he holds his dual position.
Yes, 100%, bang on.
So you mentioned you've got 9 trades left with 2 upgrades to go.
Yep.
With your money in the bank, you'll probably have 7 or 6 left over.
Yep.
I've got 4 left over.
Mm-hmm.
How many trades should people have for the run home, do you think?
So I traditionally always hold too many injury trades. So I think 4 or 5 is probably right. We're in round 16, so we have 7 more rounds to go. No, 8. Well, 8 more rounds to go. So you'd be very unlucky if you had 4 or 5 serious injuries that you needed to make a trade for. Because I think that's all you're holding. Is you're holding, if you get a 2-week injury, you just have to hold at this point. But if it's like a end of year injury, then I feel like you have to trade it out. Would you agree?
I think the amount of trades that you have left over is determined by how much money you have left in the bank.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you've got 2 trades left but 200k in the bank, it's probably okay.
Yeah.
If you have 4 trades left like me and only 20k left in the bank, there's not a lot of movement you can make if you need to make a movement, but you're still okay because you can use 2 trades in the 1 week if you have to.
Yep.
But you'd want your second trade to probably be a downgrade to give you that extra cash for only having 2 left from that moment.
Yeah,
so I think the amount of money you have left over and the amount of trades that you have left over, once your team is complete, go hand in hand for giving you comfort on the run home.
No, you bang on.
So once a team is complete, people talk about luxury trades, and I spoke about Luke Jackson and wanting to move him on for Isaac Rankin if their prices come close to each other.
Yep.
How long would you wait before doing a trade? Or once your team is complete, are you okay to start looking at doing it all now?
I think you probably want to be aggressive, right? Like as long as you don't want to cop a donut in round 24. Like that's the most painful thing, I think. So as long as you're making sure that hopefully if with a bit of luck, because you can never really predict, because I've still got 2 boosts left as well. So I should be going very aggressive. Looking at my team now, seeing Dylan Moore in there with an average of 92, seeing Jason Horne-Francis with an average of 85, seeing all these players, I probably should boost this week and make some aggressive moves, I think, because otherwise, what's the point of holding them? You know, do it now, I think.
You still have a boost left over.
I have 2 boosts left over, actually.
Jesus.
I know, right?
I burnt through my boosts at the beginning of the year, and I regretted using the last one because I'm pretty sure the player who I traded in with the last boost, I ended up trading out again. So
Yes, I went too hard at the start and I purposely pulled back, and it was probably a mistake. I traded Zach Fisher early, I traded Hayden Young earlier, and I would have been so much better off just to hold them. And I was like, "You're being too aggressive, Tom. It's just silly. You're not letting any of these guys have a go. Calm down." And it was probably I needed to probably find a balance in between.
there's only 2 players that I traded early that I wish I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Brodie Grundy.
Yep.
I had always planned on trading him at his early buy after the opening round. So that plan was executed and it's worked. But I now think I should have kept him. And the other one was Hayden Young.
Yeah.
I traded Hayden Young before I traded Jai Newcomb.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I should have gone the other way around.
Yeah. No, John Newcomb's been so difficult. Like, not a disappointment. That's unfair. But honestly, I had such high hopes.
Yeah, like the end of last season, he looked so promising. Looked so... I mean, like, he was pumping out some really good scores towards the back end when Hawthorn were going on a tear towards the end of the season last year, but he hasn't continued it. And I think it's just because he's not the big dog in that midfield. It is Will Day.
Yeah, I think you're bang on.
Let's get to the listener questions now. The first one comes from Belinda. She wants to know, is Connor Rosie the best Clayton Oliver replacement?
That is interesting. What price is Clayton these days?
Not much, which is probably why Connor Rosie...
$460, yeah.
Which is why Connor Rosie probably comes into that.
$460 is brutal, but surely there's someone, like you were saying earlier, Damo, that surely there's someone just a little bit better that you can reach for at $460, surely.
If she wants to go to a teammate, she could possibly put Dacos into her midfield and get Trent Rivers like I have done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or she can go for... If she's got someone in her forward line that she can put into the midfield, she can go for a Charlie Curnow, who's got a good run home for Carlton. He's going to want the Coleman again, so he's going to be kicking bags of 3s and 4s to get some good scores for a key forward.
Yeah.
But Connor Rosie, if you need a midfielder and have no way to do any switching around, is probably the best option at around that price.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I'm having a look now, and you could go for Kobe McKercher, but I don't think that would be a very good idea. Looking at like the 3-round average, there are some players who have put up good scores, but you would not rely on them by any means, like Steel Sidebottom, Jaden Short. Yeah, no, I think you're actually, it's Connor Rosie is more revealing at that price than I think I realized.
Yeah, and he did have those injury-affected games, but the games before his injury-affected games still weren't that great, which is what's worrying me more than anything else. And I know Port Adelaide's under pressure to perform now, and as the captain of the club, will he sacrifice himself to play a more forward role? He will do what's best for the team before he moves anyone else to a different position. So I'm not worried about a Zach Butters moving out of his position or a Jason Horne-Francis moving out of his position. I'm more worried about Connor Rosie spending time in the goal square or sweeping across half back or sweeping across half forward or whatever it is to do what's best for the team as captain. So at 410k, value is definitely there, and some people would call you stupid for overlooking it.
Yeah.
But it does come with risks.
Yeah, I agree.
Simon wants to know who is the best ruckman to pick up this week. He was going to get English, but De Koning's form is amazing right now. He already has Max Gawn.
It's really tough, isn't it? What do you think of De Koning? I don't take it seriously. I know I should because the form is there. But yeah, I don't think I'm taking it seriously enough.
I like De Koning, and if he's going to go 140, 150 in every game as the sole ruck, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, true.
But there is also Mark Pitnet waiting in the wings, and he's only been missing because he's been injured.
Yes. They definitely like to
And
play 2 rucks, don't they?
and Michael Voss has talked about using them both in certain situations. So I imagine that would be against teams where there's more of a brute style ruckman, and they come up against Toby Nankervis this week, who is one of those types of ruckmen. So do we see a Pitney come in to take the brute force of a Nankervis and De Koning play more of a forward role, which would probably affect a Harry Mackay for people that own him. But yeah, I mean, English is a good one. We spoke about Nankervis before.
Yep.
If the plan was to get English, I don't think you can go too far wrong with that. I don't think his role is going to change, and there's not a lot out there for Bevo to bring in to
Yep.
affect his role. So
Yep.
if the plan was to get English, I'd just go and get English.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the 176 from De Koning last week has definitely skewed the numbers a tad as well. Like he might come out and do that again, but it definitely makes it look a little more appealing than it actually is, I think.
Yeah, and you just got to be very careful with this sort of thing. You don't want to go point chasing.
Yes.
De Koning's already scored that 176. That 176 isn't coming into your team. Your
Yes.
team has not scored that 176. You want someone who's going to perform for the rest of the year from now. And I would trust English more than De Koning to perform for your team from now.
Yes, I agree.
Next question comes from Ro Danks. They've had Jesse Hogan since the start of the year. Advice for a replacement around his price, or just drop him to a rookie and hope for an upgrade once I've made more money. Similarly, they've also got Harry Mackay, but
Yep.
I feel he's a chance to score better than Hogan on the run home. Yeah, out of the two, I would hold on to Mackay more than, or Mackay, or however you say his name, over Hogan.
Yeah.
Options around Hogan's price. Well, I mentioned Charlie Curnow before.
Yeah.
You could go Curnow Mackay in your forward line. You could pair them up in your forward line as they do in real life.
Yeah. You really want to do a flip at that price, right? Like you could go someone like Myers or something, but I don't think you want to do that. I think like you'd be better off trying to get Rosie in and flipping someone forward.
Yeah, if you've still got Heaney in your midfield, you could get Rosie instead by flipping Heaney into your forward line. Doesn't matter where a player is on your field; they're going to score for your team.
Exactly right.
You could have Max Gawn in your back line if it allowed you to, and he'd still score 110 every single week. So it doesn't matter where the player is in your team. So yeah, I'd play around with changing some positions if you can. If you're stuck in the forward line though, your best option is probably Charlie Curnow. Depends how much money you have in the bank, though, because there's also Jai Caldwell around who has been getting some pretty good numbers in the Essendon midfield.
Yeah, I wonder if you could, if you wanted to take a punt, don't actually do this, but you could hope that Taylor Adams or Toby Green have some return to some form from previous years at that price.
I don't know if I trust the Giants.
No, I don't really.
I mean, we can talk about flaky teams on the footy, and Giants are flaky.
Yeah, they really are. Hey, I thought they would be better this year, but.
Righty. So next question comes from. They didn't leave their name, but they used our Google form.
Great.
I can get any premium to complete my midfield. Money is not an issue. Please let me know who I should get. I am playing for leagues. Current midfield includes Bontempelli, Neal, Sarong, Walsh, Steele, Rowell, and Green.
All right.
Well, if you're playing for leagues and you want someone who's a bit out there, Adam Treloar. He's not in very many teams, but he is one of the top averaging midfielders this season.
Yeah.
And I think people are turned off by him because he's not Bontempelli.
Yeah.
If he was in another team scoring those sorts of numbers, he would be in a lot more teams, I think.
Oh, if he was still at Collingwood, absolutely. He'd be in
Even if he was still,
100,000 teams.
he was still at the Giants. Like,
Yeah, true. What about Lucky Neal?
they've already got Neil.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So this person already has Bont, Neil, Sarong, Walsh, Steele, Rowell, and Green.
Then I guess Zach Merritt was a popular pick last week as well.
Zach Merritt is also a good option. He's got a really good run home as well. Does come across a couple of tags over the next few weeks, but he's shown that he can work through a tag against Alex Chincotta. Just before his bye. He still pumped out a 124. So
Very impressive.
He's shown that he can work through it by playing a different role for Essendon in their midfield, which seems to work. So,
and then what about LDU, Damo? Surely that's tempting.
Ooh. If North keep playing like they've been playing, he is a really good option.
Yeah, averaging over the last 5 rounds 135.
He is a really, really good option. The only thing I would say is last time I had LDU in my team, I got burnt because he was a late out about 30 seconds before a game started.
Yep.
And I couldn't do anything to my team. And if that's the way that North Melbourne and Alistair Clarkson are going to play with when announcing their late changes, then I don't know how I don't know if I can do it. I've got Zach Fisher. I've got Harry Sheasel. Doesn't feel good because I know that it can happen, but I don't know if I want a third person from North Melbourne in my team when they pull those sorts of shenanigans.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, LDU, Zach Merritt, Adam Treloar. You said you're playing for leagues, so you probably want to go for someone that not a lot of other people in your league have. So Adam Treloar is my pick for leagues, but in general, I'd go for Merritt or LDU.
Yeah, I agree.
Next question comes from Jesse. You know Jesse, Tom from Falcon.
Yeah, love Jesse.
Of Steele, Miller, and Green, who is the bigger fraud?
Steele, Miller, or Green?
I'm going to say Took Miller.
Really?
Well,
I think
I've got a take on this.
Okay, I love it.
So I don't like St Kilda. I don't like Ross Lyon. I don't like players coached by Ross Lyon.
Yeah.
So Jack Steele, who knows what his role is going to be week to week, but he is still going to be in the midfield, and he is still going to tackle, which if he gets 10 tackles in a game, that is 40 points that you can bank on.
Yeah.
So I think at minimum, Steele's got a pretty okay floor if you're not too concerned about what he actually scores. An okay floor, I would say of about 70.
Yep.
Took Miller. People are tagging Took Miller. Who knew that Took Miller was like the cog of that Suns midfield making that work?
I know, right?
I thought it was Rowell and Anderson that was doing all the legwork. But people are tagging him, and he's coming out with games where he scores like 53 and 67 and 71, and it's. If people are going to tag him, I don't want him in my team.
Yeah. No way. I think like the midfield unit really doesn't perform like the rest of the team. The midfield unit has really not been performing away from home as well. Like if you just look at the raw numbers of like disposals, at home the midfield group are averaging 30 and away they're averaging 20. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Suns' form away from home is also something to keep in mind because they did have a lot of home games if we include Darwin, in the early parts of the season, which probably helped the guys like Rowell and Anderson keep their averages up. But towards the back end, they've got games in Melbourne, games in Adelaide, games not at home where they don't perform as well, so they probably won't score as well.
Yeah, bang on.
And Tom Green, I think he was just having a down patch, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I still think Green is a superstar.
He still gets his 25, 30, 35 touches. It's just a matter of who's around him and how he uses the ball that affects his score more than anything else. And I think when Canelio comes back possibly this week, I don't actually know, I think he will do a lot better when he's got a bit of help and a bit of protection in that midfield. And I think The Giants will be better off for him having a bit of protection as well. Don't know how much better they will be, but I think Green's scores will improve once he gets the cavalry back in the midfield with him. So, who is the bigger fraud? Touk Miller.
Yeah, I think so. Sad, but probably true.
Yeah, as a Suns man, there, Tom. It sucks to say that one of your own players is a fraud, but in terms of Supercoach, he's just not doing it, is he?
Yeah, it's just like, it was like last year or the year before, he was really up there for the Brownlow, but it's just like with Flanders and everyone else running around these days, he's just definitely taking a back seat, and that's okay. He's still great, but if he's getting tagged, I think that's probably for the best, to be honest. Taking a tag away from Rowell, Anderson, or Flanders.
If he's going to get tagged and he's the one deciding, okay, then I'll go forward, that's actually the best thing for the Suns.
Yeah, I agree.
So he's actually doing the team thing by going forward, but he's not doing the Supercoach thing by getting tagged and not staying in the midfield.
Exactly. Bang on.
And our last question today or tonight, I can't decide whether to use one trade to go Oliver to Rosie, so this is the same situation we had before, or two trades to bring in Curnow. Curnow finishes my team with full premiums in inverted commas, but then I'm praying Clary sorts himself out.
It sort of depends on a bit more context, right? Like how many trades you have left, right? But I think I would back in Curnow on the run home over Oliver or Rosie, to be honest.
So I'm a bit confused how Curnow uses two trades, but if you can bring in Curnow this week and maybe go Oliver to Rosie next week, Rosie's not going to jump too much in price.
Yeah.
If you have enough cash that you can do that, that's a good move.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think I would bring in Curnow this week.
Yeah.
He's got Richmond. Richmond's defense is a little bit shit.
Yeah.
They don't have Tom Lynch again, so who knows how they will go. Obviously, they don't have Michael Lafau to come in to cover Tom Lynch. They're coming off the bye as well, and we know that teams off the bye don't perform that great. So yeah, Curnow is my pick. But if you can go Oliver Toroji next week and still have a good amount of trades left over for the run home, then you could look at doing that next week, or perhaps another move that I haven't spoke about because I don't know what prices are coming down, or what players are going to score, or all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, bang on.
So with no more games on Thursday nights this season, our traffic lights will be posted on Fridays after the Sunday teams are confirmed. This way we get as much team information as possible before we make our recommendations. So keep an eye out on Fridays where we post our weekly traffic lights. We'll grade some players each week. They will either be awarded a green, yellow, or red rating. Green indicates a good pick. Yellow is a watch or hold. Red is a trade or avoid. And a player could earn their rating for several reasons, including but not limited to scoring potential, job security, price point, reliability, or injury status. So keep a lookout on Fridays for our traffic lights if you need a hand with your trades. And last week, I do regret recommending Carl Warner. I had no idea that he was going to be the sub.
Yeah. Bad luck.
Vice captains and captains for round 16. What are you vibing there, Tom, for your vice captain?
So I'm thinking Gorn is a very obvious choice, always good as a vice. But I think if you can hold out till Saturday and vice either LDU or Bontempelli, that might be the play.
So, but Bontempelli is actually in doubt for the weekend's game.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
he got tackled awkwardly today and had back spasms.
Okay.
So he now faces a fitness test over the next 24 hours, but they're not sure if he's going to play or not. but he was my pick for vice captain as well before that news came out. I'm now potentially looking at a Dane Zorko against Melbourne at the Gabba. He does pretty well there, or a Max Gawn against Oscar McInerney. Just as vice captain, you can take those sorts of risks, but Bont or Gawn are probably my two. Dane Zorko as well. Those are probably my three that I would pick from early in the round. What about your captain, Tom?
So looking at it now, I don't have a lot of players playing on Sunday, which is a bit of a concern. I would back in Butters. I know he's been down a little bit, but I really like captaining Butters. I feel like it works out for me most times. Most times at quarter time, I'm really upset because he's like on 13 or something, but then he somehow always manages to grind out a good score somehow. So I think Butters is a solid choice.
He's a slow starter, but then might have 3 40-point quarters in a row.
Yeah.
And finishes on 135, and that's great.
Yeah, 100%. Or you could go someone late on Saturday as well. You could back in Tom Green to repeat his performance from last week against Adelaide at Adelaide Oval. I feel like that could be a vibe as well.
I really like Zach Merritt against Geelong at the MCG. Geelong aren't a massively restrictive midfield.
No.
And we saw even the likes of Sam Walsh and George Hewitt go off the chain last week. So Zach Merritt is my pick at the moment.
Love that.
But I also like Nick Dacos against your boys earlier on the Saturday as well.
Yeah. Collingwood love playing in Gold Coast. They love it.
It might be the one home game that Gold Coast don't win.
Yeah, legitimately.
Other options include, I don't mind Harry Sheasel as a vice captaincy option. Isaac Heaney against the Dockers is another option. Also, Caleb Sarong. We spoke about Nick Dacos. We spoke about Tom Green. I'd only choose Tom Green as a vice captain, though, so you'd have to choose someone later on the Sunday if you were to go that way. You said Zach Butters. If you're bringing in Connor Rosie, do you captain him as a throw at the stumps late if you have to? I don't think it's the worst option.
Have fun.
I even don't mind Jack Sinclair or Dan Houston as potential throws at the stumps late as well.
Yep.
I like any of the Carlton midfielders against Richmond, so Cripps or Walsh. And then against West Coast, if you're getting to the last game of the round and you're still haven't locked in your vice captaincy score because whoever it was scored an 87, and you really, really, really not sure who to tip, who to take, I don't mind Elliot Yeo as a potential captaincy option, but we don't know if he's playing because tragically his father did pass away during the week.
Right.
I also don't mind Will Day for the owners of him, just as a late throw at the stumps late in the round if you haven't actually chosen a captaincy score yet.
Yeah, love that.
And that's it for this episode of the Footy Mailbag. Thanks for joining me, Tom.
No, thank you so much for having me, Damo. Always a pleasure. Love Supercoach.
Clarky will be back next week at this stage. Tonight he wasn't able to join us because he was at the State of Origin. So hopefully he had fun learning about rugby. I have no idea about rugby. I try and play Supercoach NRL, and there's a few good eggs out there helping me through this season as I'm learning, but I'm not doing that great. But I'm learning about how their season works, and it doesn't actually work that well.
It doesn't work. Is it a good game, the NRL Supercoach?
It's not bad. I don't think you complete your team as much like you do in AFL.
Right.
I think it's more fluid like the NBL or the BBL formats of the Supercoach.
Yep.
So I feel like I've got a complete team with 11 trades left, but there's always buys, there's State of Origin where there's like 16 players missing. So you've got to do 2 trades and hope that whatever your score is comparable to anyone else, and it's interesting.
It sounds out there.
If you haven't given us a rating on your listening platform of choice, please do so. It helps new listeners find us. And make sure you check out Supercoach rings at supercoachchampion.com for a Super Bowl style ring for your league winner. And make sure to visit our website, footymailbag.net. Head over there for links to our social medias, our merch if you want to support us. And there is also a link to our Google form for our listeners who don't have social media but want to get involved. Thanks for listening. We'll talk next time.